From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Cummins.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! Wake Up Warchant presented by Cummins. Coming up on today's show, Duke University lets all of us down. Can a quarterback on roster sneak up on the nation like Fernando Mendoza? And the crucial stretches and moments of the 2026 schedule. It's the Mailbag Show. Wake Up Warchant presented by Cummins. CumminsLifestyle. Follow it on Instagram. There's a good reason to. You could win the ultimate tailgate. We'll get to that later because it's the Mailbag Show. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Hit the thumbs up, rate, review, subscribe, the podcast, the YouTube channel, and the actual website where all the information, all the biggest, most passionate Florida State fans reside. It's interesting to see so many new faces pop up on the message board, Corey, dropping in comments, not necessarily on the mailbag, but just in general. Saw some person, I'm like, I've never seen that name before ever. I'm like, let me see what, they've been around since 2005. It was like their only 140th ever post. So despite the lackluster results on field the last two seasons, everybody's dialed in. Everybody's ready for change. Well, I shouldn't say change. Change results. Not necessarily maybe change. Well, actually, probably change too. I'll stop talking. What's up, Corey?
Wonderful, Aslan. Wonderful. I'm doing good, buddy. I know you didn't ask me that, but I'm doing well. I hope you are too. And getting ready, I guess, for the post show. The show's about something besides the schedule. But I guess we'll always be talking about the schedule, won't we?
Yeah, we will be. That's probably going to be what's going to be generating discussion. But we do start at the bottom of the mailbag. Island Chief gives us a little Coach Eric Taylor, clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. He loves high school football. Just like the NFL honors college football by not playing on Saturdays, college football should do the same for high school football. ESPN should look for content somewhere else on Friday night. Put that on the list for the commissioner to do. My question, though, should Duke have been willing to go to court to enforce their contract with Darian Mensah? Are these agents forgetting the saying, you can shear a sheep many times, but you can slaughter him only once?
Is that a saying?
I've never heard of that, but now we know, everybody. Thank you, Island
I
Chief.
mean, it makes sense. It's like, yeah. Well, you could use it with a human, too. Like, you can give as many haircuts as you want, but you can only behead someone one time.
I like
Same principle, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, the Duke question, absolutely. That angers me to no end, that Duke didn't pursue that in court, that they settled. For the people that don't know, Darian Mensah, really good quarterback at Duke, probably one of the top NFL prospects at the position going into next season. Was at Tulane, that had a good year at Duke, led them to the flipping ACC championship. And then now he's going to go to Miami. I don't know that he's committed yet. I think he has, but he had an NIL deal with Duke that said in plain writing, because they, in their lawsuit against him, they released the terms of the contract that said he had an exclusive $4 million NIL deal with Duke University, and he could get no other NIL money from any other school, and he signed it, and so did their lawyers, and Duke settled with him. They sued him. I assume his agent in Miami came back and offered something. I'm going to assume because there was no buyout in the contract, Aslan. That was the crazy part. There was no language for a buyout because there didn't need to be. He signed an exclusive rights package with Duke, meaning he can't go play anywhere else. And then Duke caved, to me anyway, they caved and settled, which I don't understand it. I can't figure out. Do you think Duke is going to be better without Darian Mensah than with him?
No, but I guess
right?
and the thought too, I'm agreeing with you here, is that, all right, so you're not going to have Mensah either way, but at least let him go, and so then you'll have some money to pay for a replacement or X, Y, and Z. Window's closed, y'all, right? Like everybody's, right. The people that are still out there are still out there, but there's no new people who are going to hop in there that can give you what he gave you. So you would figure they would have kept going down almost out of spite. Well, maybe it's optics. Maybe if they would have fought tooth and nail, then, all these great athletes would no longer want to go to Duke.
But the Washington, I don't buy that at all. But also, I don't buy that the Duke kid he wouldn't have been welcomed back on the team. Like Washington took that quarterback back. Like look around. These kids are all pros now. Like you don't just because I don't know, man. Let's use Paolo Banchero with the Magic. When he hits his free agent year, I don't know why I do all the worst examples. Let's say Baker Mayfield with the Bucks. He'll become a free agent at some point. If he explores other options and visits the Chargers and visits the Vikings, but ends up signing back with the Bucks, those guys on the team aren't going to be Baker, man. How dare you? How dare you come back? Like, they all understand the game. The kid was trying to make more money. It's not that he hates Duke or doesn't believe in them. He's trying to make more money and maybe go to a school that has a legitimate chance to win a national championship. I'm sure he wants to throw him up Malachi Tony. That's probably a fun that's an appealing choice, too. But so it wasn't untenable. And I don't know if Duke thought it was untenable. And they're like, but I just can't understand why you would let him go. Whatever the settlement was, it's not like Duke is hurting for money. They're not hurting for cash. So what possibly because somebody has to take this all the way. Like the Washington kid went back. So that never went to court. This one never saw a courtroom. The Clemson Ole Miss thing will probably, no, that's not even a criminal case or a civil case, so that would never see a courtroom anyway. That's an NCAA case. But I would like one of these to go through the entire process, be litigated, and see how adjudicated. That's the word I was looking for, and then see what happens. Because I think that was bad for college football. Not because it's Miami getting a great player. It's bad for college football that Duke had a contract, and the kid didn't live up to it, and you let him walk. I don't understand why you would do that. What do you think they must have paid? Do you think they just gave Duke $4 million?
Probably.
Like, what's the set? We're never going to see the settlement because it was a settlement. We're not going to see that. But what do you think they must have paid Duke for Duke to be like, okay, yeah, now you're going to go to a rival school and play against this, perhaps? Awesome. What, $4 million? The $8 million? What do you think they paid for him? Legitimately.
I think probably maybe like 4, right? And then they'll pay him 6, and they got $10 million to pay towards a quarterback. That's what they did.
Isn't that crazy?
That's disgusting.
And what's Duke going to do with that $4 million?
Well, next year,
I guess get a shooting guard. They'll get a shooting guard,
or play for 2027. They go, maybe that's like a legitimate thing. Like, okay, we're gonna wear it this year. Like we're not gonna necessarily like take it easy on our players and wave the white flag in practice, but behind closed doors, like Manny Diaz and their analytics guy who's their GM, maybe there's like, listen, like we have a nice piece of money here now to go after somebody the next cycle. And there's ways I think,
man, but you only get a Darian Mensah once.
I know, hey man, I do not disagree, but maybe he made it plain, and maybe he pulled like a Eli Manning, like I will not play for you if you draft me. So like,
fine, but you're not going to go play for Miami. Like, don't let him win. He won. I don't know why he gets to win, and Lord knows I would never stand up for Duke University. But I just don't understand. I'm trying to stand up for college football fans, quite honestly.
Can you imagine,
not that Duke has a ton of them.
Can you imagine if this was Florida State making the move, though? Like if we were the ones flush with cash and I can't even, like, listen, I try to call it down the middle as much as I can. I wonder, like, how would we be framing it if Florida State was the Miami in the situation where they went after a guy with exclusive rights and did everything they could to get him away? Would we be like,
I would think, yeah, obviously it would be less vitriolic because it would help our bottom line. It would help what we do for a living to have a kid like that at Florida State. But I wouldn't criticize Duke.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think. I wouldn't criticize Duke I wouldn't be so adamant in their favor right now probably, but I wouldn't criticize Duke for trying to hold him to a contract because he had a contract. And, I just think that was a bad day for college sports. I think it let him get away with it. There are still no parameters in place when it comes to that. And now even when you sign a contract that says you are the sole, you only get money from one institution, only one institution can play you, you can still just kind of thumb your nose at that and say, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go play where I play. And college football fans, again, are screwed. Don't care that much about Duke football at all. Don't care about Duke football at all. But I would be saying the same thing if he was going to LSU or Texas, schools that Florida State does not play. It really bothered me a lot that Duke, to me, caved because these agents and these players have to understand that those contracts are binding. And right now, other than the Washington kid who still didn't go to court, I don't know that that's true. I also think Duke, next time they get something like this, will write in that contract they need a buyout. But I don't even even the buyout. Like, man, I don't care. I don't care. The Yankees don't get to just go get Ronald Acuna right now.
Yeah, I want the asset. I don't want the money. I want the asset.
Man, yeah, and what the money doesn't do anything for Duke football fans. Great. What are you going to do with that money? You can't buy anybody now. The portal's closed. So you get $4 million. We don't have a quarterback. We don't have an offense next year. But yeehaw. That's what it just really bothers me. And it's just not, honestly, it's just not fair when there's a contract. Ronald Acuna, whenever it was, 5 years ago, signed a 10-year, $100 million contract with the Braves. He cost himself a lot of money, probably, as it turned out. But in the short term, he got $100 million. The Braves were very smart to lock him up for 10 years. He's one of the best baseball players in the country. Duke was very smart to lock up Darian Mensah for 2 years. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. The Yankees can't come tomorrow and just say, hey, we're going to take Ronald Acuna. And then the Braves settle. Well, what if you give us 30? No, the Braves aren't settling. That's their asset, like you just said. That should have been Duke's asset, and now it's Miami's. Oh, and he also just went and got his 1,100-yard receiver, too. Yeah, good times. Sorry, that was a long answer. I know we got a lot of questions. That's my fault.
Random_John, if tampering is unenforced, NIL contracts don't really hold, what is Florida State's actual competitive lane in this system? If FSU is not built to win pure bidding wars and is not willing to eat massive buyouts to reset the program, where do our Seminoles realistically fit in a sport that's trending towards pay to acquire with no guardrails?
It's a good question. I think what we all have to hope for and wish for, and we hope it happens sooner rather than later, is real structure within the sport. Because, yeah, Florida State just on money for money can't hang with some of these schools. Now, it would help if they didn't spend, $60 million on a head coach that can't win road games. But it would be nice to free that money, that chunk up. But, yeah, I think that all college football fans, except for Miami, honestly, they need to cheer in Texas Tech. And I'm not going to say Indiana because I don't think Indiana was built on just buying players. They were built on making a great coaching hire, period. But that's what we all need to be cheering for rooting for is just more structure and getting this under control where there are real rules in place for all these teams. I don't care what the money is. You could tell me it's $80 million to a roster or $20 million to a roster. I don't care as long as everybody's working under the same rules. Right now, it's not. So Miami gets to go. I mean, they just went and spent probably somewhere in the neighborhood, all told, when you count the buyout, $10 million on a quarterback for one season. Okay, great. They're playing a different sport. I'm going to guess acquiring Ashton Daniels didn't cost $10 million. I'm going to go ahead and guess that.
Okay.
So they're playing a different sport right now. It would be like judging the Falcons for not being able to compete with, the Cowboys because the Cowboys spend 4 times as amount of money on their roster that the Falcons do. Well, that's not – they all get the same – it's the salary cap. And so until this sport can get a hold of itself and get a salary cap, yeah, it's you just hope that you can luck in. And this goes for kind of most of the country, honestly. You just kind of hope you can luck in to a few good seasons until that happens. And hopefully it happens very, very soon. Hopefully these cases – will get people off their butts, the people that matter, realize you've got to have collectively bargained stuff, you've got to make these guys employees, and then end all this nonsense. But we'll see if that happens.
Wadata 80, gents, hard to muster anything beyond a sigh at this point. Feels like we're facing another 6-6 season. Feels like watching the same dumb movie again, thinking the plot's going to change. Whether it's 5-7, 6-6, 7-5, the whole spectrum just blurs together into one long stretch of good enough, which somehow manages to be even more depressing than just losing every game and starting over. And yes, the climb will probably be trotted out again next year. It's almost impressive how this perpetual mediocrity can be repackaged as progress. I think everyone's just too exhausted to argue. I just want anything that breaks the cycle. If we land in that same mushy middle again, I wonder and hope, parenthetically he adds, Corey, whether hitting reset is the only way to stop pretending this is going somewhere. Puke. I wanted to bridge like a response to random_John to Wadata so that maybe Corey, you can give us something, lifts our hopes somehow. But
Okay.
listen, to your point again, like Florida State's in a different class when it comes to, it has a different budget. I want to say it has a different budget than Texas A&M, Texas Tech, A&M probably too, but Texas Tech, Miami, et cetera, Oregon.
Well, I use Texas Tech and Miami because they were. Let's be honest, they were also Rands.
Yes.
Until this evolution of the sport.
Correct.
Miami was never going to be relevant again, in my opinion, under the old model. It just wasn't going to happen. The facilities, the infrastructure, everything else was never going. Miami was never going to be able to compete with the Alabamas and Ohio States of the world ever again. And Texas Tech never would have until this. That's what I meant. That's what I meant by those two schools in particular.
Yeah, no, I was not disagreeing with you. I was picking up on that to kind of circle back to random_ John's question, which I thought tied into this one, but maybe doesn't after all. But again, Duke had a really good quarterback. They had a really good wide receiver. I don't think they had a bigger budget than Florida State.
No, they didn't.
And definitely coaching-wise, they did not. I don't think their on-field product did either. So, again, this isn't to say that spending the most is automatically going to guarantee you success, but it certainly puts you in a better lane for success. So I'm not totally throwing my hands up on Florida State in this current situation because of the economic climate of the way the sport is. I'm more concerned just about, like, what is this coaching staff? What does he have left in him? What is he going to do to inspire, lead? Is he going to be able to evaluate any better? Do the people that he bring in, are they going to do some really big, overhaul changes that fixes everything, if you will? I don't know, like a change at the top is going to bring everybody back to the table no matter what, in terms of their belief. Like, even if it's, we don't have a guarantee they're going to have X amount more dollars to spend, it's just going to create a whole different current of confidence and hope and like belief. Because like right now it's, what is the plan then, Corey? Right? Because like I'm thinking, like, just be like Duke was this past season. I mean, I know they were 8-5 and won the conference. You don't want to be that low on the totem pole to where you win the conference, you don't make it to the playoff. But like, Duke lost some games they should have won and still made it to the conference championship game. Like, you should be able to do that with the amount of money you're spending on your roster, but maybe they didn't allocate it to the proper positions, because I don't know if I think Duke had obviously a good secondary. I don't think they had a great front four. I think they allocate a lot of money to Darrell Jackson, to Jason Jenkins, to James Williams. And then obviously quarterback again. They are not getting an elite top tier quarterback. So those are the things that you probably need to be able to figure out a way to get some of that stuff, even with a limited budget.
Yes, and yes, it's not too much to ask for Florida State to always be competitive in this conference. When I say luck into good seasons, I'm talking about like getting into the playoffs. That's not outlandish to think. I mean, again, it's not, especially if it gets. I mean, I have no idea when they're going to figure out the model and fix it. But until they do or don't, they will expand playoffs at some point. And it's not that hard to be in the top 16 teams in the country when you're at Florida State. And you're in the ACC. Yes, Miami spends more than you. That's about a wrap. I think you're probably comparable to Clemson, and I think you spend more than everybody else in the conference, other than Miami, on this sport. So you should. Just because the finances are not an excuse for how bad they've been the past two seasons, especially last season. Every team that beat you, Pitt, Stanford, Virginia, they didn't spend the money you spent. So you've got to use it better. You've got to coach better, in everything in between. Things that make good football teams, you've got to figure that out, because it's not like Florida State is a supreme disadvantage in this conference. They're at a disadvantage when it comes to probably contending for a national championship until this thing gets fixed. It's hard for me to imagine a way where they're spending half the money or 2/3 of the money even that Miami, Ohio State, Georgia, and A&M are spending, that they can somehow, with this coaching staff, miracle themselves into a great team that gets to the last Monday of the season. Or is it Monday? Don't they play on Monday?
Yeah, I think so.
That it's hard for me to think that's a possibility. But that's not an excuse to be this bad. You can't just throw up your hands and be like, well, we don't have the money as Miami, the same money that Miami does, so we might as well be East Carolina or Virginia Tech. Like, no, man, you need to have standards. All that to be said, no, it's absolutely not. It's not outlandish to try to get to 8 or 9 wins. Now, this is a tough schedule, and I don't know that it's a loaded roster. I don't think it's a loaded roster. We'll see if any of these freshmen can really play. But 8 wins is not crazy. And if you have an 8-win roster, let me put it another way. If you have an 8-win roster, like Virginia did, I think Virginia this past year, that was a 7 or an 8-win team that either lucked or played the situations great to get to 11 wins. You can do that. You can do that. Maybe not with this head coach. We'll see. Yeah. But you can do that with your roster. Your roster is good enough to get to double-digit wins. It's also bad enough or mediocre enough that you could go 5-7 again. But that goes for most teams, Aslan. Like I think you could say the same thing about Alabama, quite honestly, or Clemson. These were two national powers. They were the two best programs in the country when COVID hit. Alabama, Clemson. The two preeminent programs in the country in 2020 were those two programs. Neither have won a national title since. Clemson hasn't even sniffed one. They were 7-6 this past year. Alabama has a ton of question marks. Now, again, we might all say, well, it's Alabama. They're going to be awesome. Or they might go 7-5, and he might be fired. Like, that's the reality of the sport right now. Again, we do live in a world where Indiana just went 16-0 and won a national championship. So it's hard to even predict what Florida State can be, but we all know they can be better than this.
No. Well, my question that's somewhat tangentially related to this, though, Corey, is that, the belief going into last season was build a roster, get a coaching staff that puts you back into respectability, right? Like win 8 games, use that 8 wins to build off and springboard into 2026. So now we've kicked that can down the road. So that's where we're at right now, right? Like it's hope to win 8 games. I don't agree with that. I don't think I would be shocked if this team won 10 games. I would be shocked if they won 10
100%. Games. But I would also, I guess I wouldn't be as shocked if they went 3-9. But I would be pretty stunned with that too.
We're at that place now, though, right? Remember, like after 24, it's like 2-10. Like I'd be more shocked if they end up going 3-9 than if they were to go, 10-2. And it's like, well, 5-7, not that close to 10-2.
But you did again. Not to interrupt you, I'll make it a quick interruption. Sorry, I say not to interrupt you as I'm interrupting you. But last year's team, again, could have won 9 games. We watched it all play out. 9 wins was not outlandish for that football. 10 wins. Wasn't that? Just take Florida and Miami off the board. Every other game they lost, they could have won. They didn't for a lot of different reasons. And there weren't many wins they had where you're like, man, they got lucky to win that one. Like their 5 wins were pretty convincing. Every single one of their losses, except Miami and Florida, so the other 5, they could have won.
I don't know about Clemson, man.
I mean, they were.
But that's
they
the thing,
outgained them,
we're
and
having to take
they just
out
kept
games.
dropping passes.
We're omitting games, and then we're still admitting that they lost like 3 others in bad fashion. But there's 2 others that are out there, but we're like, we can't think about those.
No,
so
but I mean, I think when you look at my point is when you look at that roster, they were highly competitive in all those games.
Fair.
I know we're Florida State. You don't want them to be just competitive. You want them to win the games. That's why they keep the scoreboard lights on. You want to win the games. They could have won all those games. They could have won every single one of them. A couple of plays here or there. It wasn't like they were embarrassingly bad like last season, like the 2024 season was.
Right.
Where they just got complete. That's all. That's the point I'm making. Like that roster was good enough to win 9 or 10 games. It clearly was mediocre enough to lose 7. They found ways to lose games. Maybe just, I don't know, be luckier. Yeah. But then but I guess the problem still remains is, okay, even if you luck yourself into 9 or 10, like Virginia.
Well, here's let me finish. Let me finish my thought real quick, if you don't
mind.
Oh,
sorry.
So yeah,
that was a long interruption.
That's
on me.
The whole improve, get to 8 wins. You can use that to springboard and market yourself for a better year down the road. Like, do we think they lost anybody this past cycle because they went 5-7? Like, had they gone 8-4, do we think that they would have, I don't know, like Lagway would have came at a lower number, like Calandra would have came at a lower number? That's the scary part to me, is that if they even somehow miracle 8 wins, I don't think that does anything to help out 27, man. Because at this point, man, it really is all about like you believing in that coach and then you believing in that those checks are going to clear on the 1st and the 15th when they hit your bank account. So that's what
maybe.
Hurts.
But we'll see though, right? That's hypothetical. We'll see if we'll have to. Wouldn't that be a fun bridge to cross? An 8 or 9 win bridge, and then see what the reaction is on the other side from that. I don't, I'm not expecting 9 wins, but if that were to happen and there's really upward mobility, and this staff will have then been in place for 2 years. And on top of that, I don't know, a half dozen or a dozen of these 32 freshmen you're bringing in actually play and play well, and you've got a young core that continues to get better. There's an avenue for that. That could happen. It also could happen that you're looking for a new coach in late October. Or, so it's all on the table.
I will not be looking for a new favorite sports bar in the Tallahassee area as long as 2475 Appalachia Parkway houses the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. CPTallybar.com, the website, if you want to check out the menu. But just rest assured, when you show up, there's a menu there as well, and everything on it's awesome. So that's been settled. Ice cold drinks, happy hour weekdays, 4 to 7 p.m. All day on Sundays, I think, during the NFL. So not sure where we're going to go from here with only one game left. But just know that even when it's not happy hour, the drink's always affordable, always ice cold, friendly faces, darts, billiards, jukebox, live music on the weekends, 47 different televisions, and yeah, owned, operated by a Nole who lives in Tallahassee.
And I'll tell you what makes it stand out. Again, I'm going to bring this up a lot because it's a sports bar, and I'm sick and tired of going into sports bars where they don't turn on the games or act like they can't be bothered to turn on the games. Maybe it's because of who I am, the status I have at Corner Pocket. I get it. But the other night, there was a really good college basketball game that I wanted to watch that was on flipping Peacock. Good luck going to any other sports bar in this city and saying, hey, can you put on Peacock so I can watch this game? But at Corner Pocket, not every TV is Peacock accessible. But the ones that are, they went and turned it to the game that I was trying to watch. Just throwing that out there, everyone. And you can go watch NHL. If you're an NHL fan, you can go get them to turn. You're not going to get all the TVs. You're not going to get the Vegas wall. But if you're Matt Lassere and want to watch the Dallas Stars for some reason, hey man, just go. You go and ask. They'll get on the remote and they'll find the Dallas Stars hockey game for you.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. So as most of us know, I've got a wedding coming up later this year. So I've got groomsmen, I've got a best man, I've got to get a gift for all of them, right? And I'm like, man, what am I going to get them that's cool? And I've got my rule of 3 things that we all know about: umbrellas, toothbrushes, and flashlights. You can't go wrong with either of those. But the real ones, they get Ridge wallets for their dudes. That's what I'm doing. I've had a Ridge wallet for, I think, well over a year now, man. It is legit. It is durable. It is going to last a lifetime. And if for some reason it does not, I can send it back to them and they're going to give me a new one because they have a lifetime guarantee, 99-day risk-free trial, free shipping on the order. And the reason that they do all this is because they believe in their products. Stuff looks sharp, extremely durable. Again, I don't have to worry about sitting on this old, clumpy wad of a wallet anymore. I've actually got a decent amount of cash, if you guys could hear that, in my clip right now, because I'm going to New York City, as we all know, for the bachelor party. And, I mean, it fits in my front pocket. And listen, your boy wears some, slim fit jeans, so sometimes a little bit tricky. Piece of cake. In and out. In and out. Save 10% at Ridge with code WAKEUP. Upgrade the wallet today. Again, save 10% at ridge.com/wakeup. We are back. It is Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by Cummins, CumminsLifestyle. Follow them on Instagram. Let's go back here, Corey. Let's start with Braden McGill. Wake up, guys. If we were to start 2-0, what is your prediction for our final record? If we start 1-1, what is your prediction for our final record? What do you think, Corey?
7 wins either way.
And then Noli Maximus says, sure seems like a tough slate, especially October. Mike's tenure, in my opinion, could ride on this SMU game Labor Day. With a win, you're most likely 2-0 with momentum, a loss followed by a likely loss to Alabama, which despite this year, you can't be optimistic about on the road. And we are spiraling towards another 5 or less win season. Agree, disagree? I don't disagree. I think there's a lot riding on the line against SMU, Core. I think we both can agree on that. And then we have Candy Knoll. I know the schedule has been analyzed to death, but taking into consideration the schedule, rivalries, record, momentum, which one win guarantees Mike comes back in 27, which one loss guarantees his firing. Candy Knoll was first, Corey. She's also been around since 2009.
Let's go.
So that's the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Fire up the camera. Fire up some power for me there, Corey. No audio, though. he's a good, quick learner, everybody. It is generating discussion. It is sparked by Cummins. A reminder, when you enter your question into the Renegade Express mailbag, you always have a shot to be featured on the segment, which then gets you entered into a monthly drawing for Cummins gear, cool shirts, swag, things like that, but also an entry into our end of off-season ultimate tailgate giveaway. You, 19 other folks tailgating in Tallahassee for a home game of your choice, maybe that SMU Labor Day game. I think that would probably be a good option. Bartender there for you, serving you drinks, food, chairs. They're going to set it all up, tear it all down, just because they like warchant.com, and we love the folks over at Cummins. Follow them on Instagram, though. CumminsLifestyle, it's all one word. All right, Corey, so I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to turn this question on its head a little bit. Corey, there isn't one win. There's not, right now as we sit here, Corey, there's not one game that you can say he's locked in, they'll be good. If they lose it, you got to get rid of him. I'm going to play my I know it gets tiring, Corey, but it's you got to be in the thick of it in November, buddy. And I think if you've got 3 losses before November, which in full transparency, I think you might have mentioned this later on in the show, we're from the future, everybody. Yeah, man, if you lose SMU, you got Louisville, Clemson, and Miami. If you lose to SMU on Labor Day, that's why it's so important, obviously, Corey. Man, if you go 1-2 versus Louisville, Clemson, and Miami, that's not disgraceful or anything. But if you've already have one ACC loss and you've got 3 ACC losses before November, it's over. Like, you're not going to win the conference. You're not going to make it to the conference title game. A 3-loss conference you're not making it. It's over. Finish it. Finish them. That's my opinion. That's the only thing I can say with a clear determination.
Yeah, but what's the answer then? What did you say the answer was?
There isn't a one single game.
What about a single loss?
The one that makes you 3 losses before the end of November. So if you lose to SMU, it'll be Miami. Yeah. If you beat SMU and it's Clemson. So those are the 2 games that would be like your third potential. If you lose Louisville, Miami, and against Clemson. So if you beat SMU, you'll probably survive a Miami loss, provided you don't lose a Louisville.
Yeah, I think that's why the SMU loss, or the SMU game is so big, because when you look at how the schedule shapes out, you should beat New Mexico State and you should beat Central Arkansas. We can all agree on that. The SMU game means that you're 3-1 at worst going into that Virginia game. 3-1 with a win in the conference means you're at least 3-1 with a road loss at Alabama going into that Virginia game, which is an imminently always. This is a sentence that's been said in perpetuity. That's an imminently beatable Virginia team. So and it's at home. So you're 3-1 with a real chance of going 4-1. And at that point, you've got some momentum. You're 4-1. Your only loss is a road loss at Alabama. There's no shame in that. And you're going into the teeth of that schedule with only 1 loss. But if you're 3-2 or 2-3, the season's over, and so is your coaching tenure probably. Because I feel like if you haven't beaten SMU, and heaven forbid you haven't beaten Virginia either, the odds of you winning at Louisville and winning at Miami are basically null, and they're nil. So, yeah, that's why I think the SMU, because it is a winnable game, and it's a good team. It might even be a ranked team because they have a really veteran, good quarterback coming back. But it's also their first game of the season. You get a week 0 game. It's at home. It's on a Monday night. The crowd should be into it. You have every opportunity to win that game. It's been laid out there for you. A big game at home where you have the advantage of having played a game already. So if you lose that one, and then you get a week off, and I can't imagine you lose at home to SMU, you're then going to go beat Alabama. So now you're staring at 2-2 with your 2 wins over 2, basically high school teams again, or bad football teams again, which is all you've beaten recently. That's why that SMU would just be a big win, man.
Yeah.
It'd be their best win since Alabama, which, again, there's not a lot to choose from. But you haven't had many good wins in the last 2 years. That would be a really good win, and it would be pretty much a debilitating loss because of what I think would follow it, which is a loss at Alabama, and then your next road game is at Louisville, then it's just tough. That's tough, man. You'd like to go into that Louisville game with what would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's your 6th game.
Yeah, it's with a 4-1 record. Mm-hmm. That's not doable if you lose to SMU. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, let's say they beat SMU, and then that makes it. Yeah, that helps out immensely, because You can go 1-2 in that stretch in October between Louisville, Miami, and Clemson. I hate to cast Virginia aside, but I feel like the way Florida State played last year on the road, that situation at home, they'll be fine in that game. So if you beat SMU, that gives you enough breathing room to probably make it well into November to see how things shake out. But yeah, if you lose that SMU game and you lose to Louisville, man, you're 0-2 and you're 1-2 in conference. You got to win out, man. And then,
but that would also be your third loss overall. So you're what, 3-3?
I don't disagree with you, but the Alabama game I think is relatively inconsequential. When we're talking about, I think that they've got to have a legitimate chance of making to the conference championship game with this. I mean, there's no way they can be like, yeah, we want to go 6-6, like a bowl game or bust. Like, no way, man. It's Charlotte or bust, I think. So
yeah, but so that the SMU game to me is easier, and neither one of them are easy. Yeah. But the first 5 conference games you have, the SMU game to me is probably the second easiest. So you need to win it. If you want to look at it that way, it's easier than for this program anyway. It's easier than beating Clemson because that never happens, and certainly easier than winning at Louisville on a Friday night or at Miami. Period. So you've got to take advantage of a winnable game, and it's early in the season. That's another advantage you should have. But yeah, if you lose, that's why I think that's the game you can't. If you lose that game, it's just hard to imagine then turning around after an open week and winning at Alabama and then winning at Louisville and then competing against Miami, beating Clemson, like all these things that would have to happen. You get a little margin for error. I'm not whether I know you're chasing a championship, you want to be relevant. You just need to have a good season. You lose at home to SMU, that does not bode well for a good season. It bodes well for another meh or worse season, which means you're probably getting a new coach.
It's sad that, Brady McGill asked the thing, like, what is the final record if they're 1-1? What's the final record if they're 2-0? Clearly want to be at 2-0, but I don't think, 2-0 doesn't really change my outlook on the season. Because again, to your point, I think of your first 5 conference games, that probably ranks just right behind Virginia in the most winnable of those games. Meanwhile, if you do go 1-1, it's hard to think that they're going to somehow stay on the straight and narrow and only lose one more conference game the rest of the way, including that short week against Pitt, on the road against Boston College. Not that scared of those programs, but the road has not been kind, in case you folks forgot, to the Noles. So there it is, generating discussion. Shout out to Candy Knowles, part now of our end of off-season grand prize drawing for that ultimate tailgate. You too can be involved. You guys subscribe to warchant.com. Throw a question in the mailbag. Make it a good one. Corey, throw some deuces for us. Let's cleanse the palate of all that schedule stuff, Corey, although there are a couple more. But just want to get a little bit of respite. We get it, though. This was the name of the week on the thread, Corey. Every week gets a name, right? It's like Clemson week. It's Super Regional week. This one was schedule release week, so we get it.
Right.
This one, though, I like this question. This probably was the runner-up. Bama Nole 80. Corey mentioned on the podcast earlier in the week about other teams' quarterback situations as well as Florida State's, but the statement that no one is looking at Florida State and is worried about Ashton Daniels or Kevin Sperry. My question is, do you think anyone was worried about Fernando Mendoza heading into 2025? Could either of our guys have a breakout season like that seemingly out of nowhere? Got some numbers real quick, though, Corey.
All right.
He threw for 3,500, had 41 touchdowns and 6 picks this past season. Completed 72% of his passes. It's a Jameis-esque, if you will. Now, listen, he had some really good receivers.
He only threw for 3,500 yards?
Yeah.
I mean, 16 games, that's just not a lot.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking that. I mean, I know they blew out a lot of teams, so he probably didn't play many third and fourth quarters. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm glad you pointed that out, Corey, because, again, he better surrounding pieces, maybe a little bit of a tougher schedule, though. But in 2024, when he came to Tallahassee and got humbled and, frankly, humiliated and losing to the mighty Noles, he completed almost 69% of his passes in 2024 at Cal, had 3,000 yards, and had 16 touchdowns and 6 picks. So clearly huge jump in production in terms of throwing the ball into the end zone or having guys, catch and run. But I don't think you have to squint that. I don't know, man. I don't think I would have expected 41 and a Heisman out of him. I'm not trying to imply that at all. But when they got him, Miami wanted Mendoza. Mendoza was a very highly sought out commodity in the transfer portal last year. I don't know. Again, I don't think he was like, I can win a national championship with this quarterback, but you certainly were like, all right, man, this guy can complete almost 70% of his passes, throws for over 3,000 yards, takes care of the ball, has got a better than 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. We can do some stuff with that. That seems better clay to mold in what you like to use for an analogy, Corey, than like Sperry, which we have absolutely nothing to really base anything on. And then Ashton Daniels, who's played 3 seasons and has pretty much been a 56% completion percentage, 1-to-1 touchdown to interception guy. But a good runner, real good runner.
Yeah, so I was just looking at the on-3 rankings for quarterback. Oh, no, that's overall. Let me look for quarterback.
Oh, look at Corey looking stats up. Let's go.
So Carson Beck was number 1. Nico was number 2.
Imi Malia.
John Mateer was 3. And Mendoza was 4th. Okay. And the 12th player overall in the portal. So he was highly thought of, is the point. Like, he was the number 4 quarterback in the portal. He was the number 12 player overall in the portal, including according to On3's rankings at the time. I remember that game, watching that game when Florida State beat Cal, and not thinking, oh my gosh, that's the next Heisman Trophy winner, but thinking, man, that kid's pretty good. And the way Norvell and Fuller talked about him before and after, that they recognized that was a pretty good quarterback. He's a little better than you would think at Cal. Cal also has a really good quarterback now, right? I think he stayed. I don't think he left. He might have left. Did that freshman quarterback leave?
I don't think so.
He'll be in Miami next year. It'll go from Mensa to him. So it's just awesome, this pipeline they've gathered. Just 1 year of quarterbacking. It's working. But so no, to answer the question, Ashton Daniels is not the skill set's just not Mendoza. It's not close. You're not looking for that. You're not looking for a Heisman. You're not looking for undefeated in a national championship. You're looking for steady ground, man. You are just looking for steady ground. It doesn't need to be an earthquake where sometimes you don't feel it, the other time you're falling into the earth, which is what it's felt like under our feet the last 2 years. So I think Ashton Daniels, R. Sperry, can certainly be better than the quarterback. We don't know. It's a guess. But can be better than the quarterbacking you got this past year. Will it be good enough to be championship caliber? Probably not. Just because with Ashton Daniels especially, I think there's enough of a sample size to realize what he is and what he isn't. Sperry, we don't know yet, so maybe Sperry's awesome. But, yeah, I don't – when it comes to Ashton Daniels in particular, I feel more educated about him and his ability. He's just – I think the best you can hope for with him is decent. But decent quarterbacking and a Gus Malzahn offense can lead to a lot of points, yards, and hopefully wins. I just think there were too many times this past year you didn't even get decent play at quarterback, and that's why you lost some of those games.
Sagapalutale. Is JKS, though, Corey. They just call him JKS over in Berkeley.
He's still there.
He's still there. Confirmed.
Thank heavens.
Confirmed. He's still there.
We'll get to see him next year when he's. They don't play Cal. Yeah, they don't play Cal this year, but
Correct.
they do. They play Miami every year. So I'm going to go ahead and put the money. I wish there was a way I could bet on that. Like, who's Miami going to have for 2027? Because I'm guessing it's that kid.
I think you can make a bet on anything, man. You can. There those markets out there now, man.
Yeah,
you can,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Why would you wander around a warehouse store looking for paint when you could just swing by your neighborhood Ace? In addition to Ace's award-winning service, we have top-rated paint brands. Plus, our color matching technology allows us to match any color. So stop wandering and start painting. Head to your neighborhood Ace today.
In Crawfordville, your home convenience store is Ace Home Center and Napa Auto Parts, located at 2709 Crawfordville Highway.
Beham FSU, good morning, guys. Greetings from Birmingham, home to Florida State golf legend, FSU Hall of Famer, World Golf Hall of Famer, and Alabama Sports Hall of Famer, Hubert Green.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was from Alabama. All right. Major winner, right? He won 1 or 2, I think.
I think so. I'll look it up. Golf's a mental sport, guys. So's football.
Yeah.
Early talking head chatter is that the SMU game is going to be the defining 2026 game for that season. Any thoughts on why Mike Norvell's recent teams have been so mentally weak after losses? How would you fix this obvious problem in the program despite Norvell repeating response every day?
Yeah, Ira brought that up. We talked about that a pretty good amount on headlines, actually, about the SMU game in particular, and then why, as I brought up on that show and I bring up every week here, why this team, this program, seems to get worse every week and not better. And especially the last 2 years, one loss turned into 5 and 4 in a row. It just doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I think the 2024 when Ira explained, it's a good point. Like once they lost 2 games in a row when they thought they were going to be awesome, and Patrick Payton and Josh Farmer were thinking they're going to be really good again, and they're 0-2. Yeah, man, it seems like they kind of like, well, what is this? And they cashed in. And he clearly didn't reach them. They didn't have any pride, and I'm not saying those 2 guys in particular. That team didn't really have any pride, didn't play hard necessarily, and just weren't very good. Blah blah blah. Last year was weird because last year they felt so good about themselves because they went over Alabama, and then those goofy 3 weeks right after that. I wouldn't have thought the Virginia loss would have done that to them, but it did. They just spiraled. To answer why, I don't know. Ira's theory was that Gus Malzahn talking about how they're going to be the best offense in the country, and they want to be the best offense in the country, and them thinking they're the best offense in the country. And through the first month of the season, only one real game we know, they were the best offense in the country. And then against Miami, they're not doing anything. Like the Virginia game, tough loss, whatever. No. The Miami game, they have 3 points in the fourth quarter. I just feel like their confidence was shaken to the point that they never really unspiraled. But I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah.
Is it a head coach's job to fix that? Is it a coordinator's job, a position coach? Do they think they're too good because they play at Florida State? That like, yeah, man, we're badass. We're at Florida State. It's like I would hope not one single person on this roster for 2026 feels like he's arrived or accomplished anything except for Deuce. That's it. That's the list. Deuce Robinson has proven he's a very good college football player and a really good receiver at Florida State University. Nobody else on this team has proven anything at Florida State or anywhere else. Jabril Rawls, man, yeah, you had a nice season. You played 7 games. And you play at Florida State, man. Your name does not ring out in the pantheon of cornerbacks at Florida State University yet, Jabril. So you haven't accomplished anything either. None of these guys have. But it felt like that Alabama game filled them with so much false, as it turned out, belief and confidence that once that was whittled away a little bit, they could never recapture it, and they just spiraled. But so hopefully this year they don't tell them how great they are. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they did behind the scenes to where one loss became 4 in a row.
I think a lot of that falls on your head coach, man. His messaging, his tone, his tenor. I think they get to a point where, 21, they lost a bunch of games, right? But 21, they had that nice little stretch where they beat North Carolina, they beat Miami. You're like, oh, man, maybe they're not that bad. Maybe they can beat Florida and get into a bowl game. And it was like, nope, they're not going to do that. It feels like once they do lose, it's just this, like, nobody panic. It almost feels like Mike Norvell operates from this, like, everybody can stay calm. Like, nobody panic. It's going to be all right. As soon as one thing goes wrong, like as soon as the Virginia game was lost, all that really should have affected was fans. Like, all right, we're not going to get game day and top 5 Florida State versus top 5 Miami. Because that was, right, like this Virginia sneaky game Friday night on the road, blah, blah, blah.
Right. But they had a good team. Like, it ended up being an 11-win team.
Right.
There's no shame in losing that game in overtime on the road.
Right, but at that time, you're like, it's, whatever. Like, we'll beat them, take on Miami, all the marbles are the ACC. Like, you lose that one game, and then to your point, like, you had a terrible, first quarter against Virginia, but then you get things back on track in the second quarter, and especially the second half. Then you go in the Miami game, like, we lost. Or like, we cannot, we got to come out firing. This game's going to be war. I've told these guys it's nothing like Earl Little talking about it's going to be like war. Yak talking about like there's no game that's ever anything like this. They're putting all this pressure, right? Like that they start really pressing. And then you come out and you're that flat. And then from then on, it's like all bets are off, man. Like, all right, they lost this game. We go into the Pitt game. They got to win this game. Like, they got to stop the bleeding. No, they don't. They go to Stanford. Well, this is it, man. Nope. They cannot beat Stanford. It's like every game just gets increasingly more like the pressure keeps building, and he can never stop the bleeding.
Well, again, what we brought up at the time, which never made sense, it still doesn't make sense, other than It wasn't like there's no shame in losing on the road at Virginia.
In overtime.
And in hindsight, there's certainly no shame in losing to that Miami team. It's a good team. They were better than you. Now, you didn't play well, but that was for 3 quarters, but that was a good team that was better than you. Fine. The Pitt game is inexplicable. To the team that we saw play Alabama, that defense especially. Now, they did lose receivers. I get it. They lost Deuce. Squirrel was hurt. But the way that defense played against Pitt and flew around compared to what we saw against Alabama were 2 different sports. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why you're a football player that's really, really excited to play Alabama. But it's first game. We're going to shock the world. You've lost 2 games in a row, and you can't get geared up to play a game. You only get 12 of them. You can't get geared up to reestablish your dominance against Pitt. Now, you weren't a dominant team, but they were so bad defensively in that game. They played with no urgency. They didn't fly around. That's the one that almost bothers me more than the Stanford game. Like, you have a 2-game losing streak. Let's nip it in the bud. Let's come play with some fire and some energy. I know it's a sleepy noon game. Let's play with some fire and some energy against a freshman quarterback making his first road start and take it to them. And instead, you gave up 31 points or whatever it was and could have given up 40. It just had no energy at all. I don't understand that. But it's, yeah.
He doesn't either. And he doesn't either because he cycles through everything. It's like, all right, cut loose and have fun. And then next week, you just got to do your job. You got to focus on
I think he's a better coach when there are no expectations.
Yes. Like
Clearly.
Memphis.
And Memphis, well, right, at that school, but also Florida State wasn't anything in 2022. Nobody's expecting much of them. I've made this point before. They go and beat LSU. They win that great game at Louisville on a Friday night. They're 4-0. They're ranked. People are excited. Then they lose 3 in a row, and nobody cares about them anymore. And then all of a sudden they go on a 19-game winning streak. And a lot of those, the 13 the following year, had a lot to do with the play. That was a player-driven team, in my opinion, and it had greatness on it. 2024, a ton of expectations, fell on its face. 2025, not a lot of expectations until, oh, wait, you beat Alabama. You shock the world, you're number 8 in the country, then you fall on your face again. That is something that I don't know that he can figure out, or he would have fixed it by now. But his teams, when they have expectations and something goes wrong, spiral into madness. And I don't know why that is, and you're right, he doesn't either.
Whack169, good morning, guys. Hope all is well. With the schedule release, the existential dread of the upcoming football season is winding up. The season is now something to be dreaded versus excited about for me. My questions are, what is the record that gets rid of Norvell? How bad does it have to be? Has anyone in any journalistic position in Tallahassee asked for an interview with Alford to get a detailed plan of how he's going to fix this disaster that he helped create? A State of the Union about FSU athletics, if you will. Just watching Miami succeed and flourish and seeing Florida State being flushed down the toilet is very disheartening. P.S. Corey, thank you for the slap the floor and try to guard someone to the cadence of Kid Rock. It really made me laugh.
Oh, good, man. At least somebody got that reference. We've definitely asked for Alford. I'm sure Ira has, and there will be. Yes, we will do something with him at some point. I think we have a pretty decent relationship with him. At least Ira and I do. Can't speak for everybody on the staff at Warchant, but I think Ira and I do. So yes, and we had a long conversation on headlines about this. Like, you can't go into this season if you're Michael Alford. I don't know if there's a win total, but again, it does matter the way it looks. And if you're 3-4, do you fire him after 3-4? What if you I don't remember who their 7th game is. I think that's that stretch. That's Louisville, Miami, and Clemson. Let's say you're 3-2 going into that stretch. Yeah, so that would be the 8th game would be Clemson, I think, at home. I think. It's not just if you lose to Clemson at home. Do you lose 45-9? Like, or do you lose 30-26? Like, I again, losses are losses. I'm not going to sit here and say that at some point you just have to give up. But I do think it's going to matter how it looks. But he has to go into the season, in my opinion, and maybe he did this last season, and last season didn't necessitate worst-case scenario. But I feel like you go into each season and maybe each month or each week when it's this tenuous with a head coach's tenure and be like, okay, what's best case, what's worst case? Worst case isn't you lose to Alabama, because I think people are expecting that. What if you lose to Alabama 50-0? You're still probably not going to be fired in game 2. But what if you're, what if you then, game 3. So you're 1-2. You beat Central Arkansas.
No, New Mexico State, and then SMU, then Alabama.
No, I'm saying so you're 1-2 after the Alabama game with a bad loss.
Yeah.
And then you go and beat Central Arkansas 2-2. Mm-hmm. Do you go into the Virginia game saying he has to? Is that a must-win game, or is it a must-not-get embarrassed game? Like, you might lose it, but if you don't lose 40-9, we'll see if you can, rally the troops for this Louisville, Miami, Clemson stretch. I don't know. But the answer is I don't know that there's a win total. Me personally, talking now after 2 years of this. And it sucks to even say this because Florida State should never be in this position. I grant all of you everything when it comes to that. But if it's another losing season, you can't bring them back. I don't think. So, but
6-6 you could though.
Right?
Losing
Isn't that
5
goofy?
And,
Isn't that goofy? Like if
6-6, but he loses the bowl, so he's 6-7. He's fired. 6-6
Right.
wins the bowl.
But also,
yeah.
So do you go in the Florida game? And I don't think Florida's going to be great either in 2026. You go into that Florida game at 5-6. You're telling me if he wins that game, he gets to keep his job?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy to me. Yeah. Like, at some point, you have to take a holistic view of the program and saying, okay, are we just going to be swimming in this mud as long as he's here? Are we okay swimming in this mud? Or have we actually stood up out of the mud and been washed off and we're up to 9 wins? Like, me personally, anything between 5 and 7 wins, not 5-7 record, anything under 5, you're done. Clearly, I think, personally, who knows anymore? But 5 wins to 7 wins, to me, it's the same thing as 3 wins. You're in the muck. You're in the mud.
The mushy middle.
And it's been 3 years of this now. And I don't know that you could go into 2027 unless, again,
year 8. That would
what
be
if
year
Sperry
8.
plays the last what if Sperry plays the last 5 games and you go 3-2 and he averages 330 yards a game? Well, again, that changes things. But I do think that Offord, Peter Collins, the president of the university, not the
Richard
country,
McCullough.
They need to have a McCullough. They need to have a I knew his name, Aslan.
Sorry.
I knew his name. Just not giving him airtime. I think that they need to have a real plan, and I don't even know if it can just be wins and losses. It needs to be, what does this look like? Because, again, you could argue, and it's not an argument, it's the truth. The 2025 team was, in my opinion, much better than the 2024 team. It would have beaten that team by 3 touchdowns, especially if they played them at home, which I guess you'd have to because you're playing yourself. Is this team going to be much better than the 2025 team, or is it just going to be kind of eh? And I only say the 2025 team was much better than the 2024 team because the 2024 team was awful, one of the worst in school history. 2025 was just meh. So you don't really get flowers for that, but it was better. So you can argue, okay, they're back on the upswing again. It's a dumb argument probably. If they follow up 5-7 with something still in that neighborhood, I don't know how you can convince yourself this is the right guy. I just don't know. But I also know money is a big factor. So to answer the question, if they have a 6 or less, I don't know how. I don't know what you're doing at that point. Just for the mental health of the fan base, it would be a good time for a change. But we'll see how it looks.
Home stretch, last schedule question. I said all my piece in the video. I'll let Corey add any final thoughts. Usually I'm a glass half full guy, says our guy Mark down there in Naples, but this 2026 schedule blows. Forget about the ACC waving the white flag as a conference with its marquee teams playing every Friday night. For FSU, it makes it eminently difficult to pick up the pieces from the last 2 years. If Mike's once again brand new roster does not play solid football and beat a well-coached SMU team in week 2, then oh heavens. This thing could spiral and quickly with Bama, Virginia, Louisville, Friday night, Miami and Clemson looming. And Mike, please, I know you're listening. Go straight to Pittsburgh after Boston. Pitt is coming off a bye. We are on a short week. Don't come back to Tallahassee for 3 days. Stay in the cold weather and practice in the afternoons in Pittsburgh all week.
Also, yeah, imagine, all the money they save by not firing them. I know it's going to be more expensive to rent out hotels for 4. You could Airbnb it, right?
Yeah.
Get an Airbnb for an entire football team and stay in Pittsburgh. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like an NFL team would do it. I doubt they will. But, you saved all that money by not firing them. Spend some of it to keep them up north.
Maybe that'll change the entire sport, right? If Florida State does that. So do it because if people like a 4-win team is forfeiting an entire week of classes so that they can be better prepared to play another 4-win team.
Our 9-win, it could be a 9-win team. Come on now.
Well, no, but if it's a 9-win,
you got to have hope.
If it's a 9-win team, then like that won't be the narrative at all, right? Like, hey, they're hungry for a champion. They're desperate.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
But if we got 3 wins and we're like, all right, we're not even going to go to class anymore now, and we're going to be explicit about it, then maybe be like, what are we doing as a sport? I doubt that, though, because nothing is going to change this craziness, which leads us to some of our last sets of questions here, Corey, about the state of the game. Our guy Marlon Joker says, wake up, gents. And Marlon's hurting, man. Marlon's down. I mean, at least Miami lost. Because if Miami won, I don't know where Marlon would be because Marlon's in the thick of it down there in South Florida. His posts of late have reflected the general somber mood, I'm sure, of most Florida State fans in the Dade-Broward area.
Well, it's depressing. Yeah. Try to add a little levity on this show, but I get it. It's pretty depressing when you're talking about Florida State football.
Marlon Joker says, wake up, gents. Why is it that most people feel that it will take a college football czar to fix this mess? He's about to drop a pimping metaphor on us, Corey. Buckle up. For years, college football has been the biggest pimping game in town. The schools, coaches, along with TV execs are the one in the fancy suits and cars making all the money. Well, we, the fans, we're the Johns paying. And the players, we know what role they play in the scenario. And now because they're getting a bigger slice of the pie, everyone's in an uproar. At this rate, the sport is moving towards a 24-team playoff. The regular season won't matter, and most of us fans will only tune in to watch the tournament. So how does one person fix this problem? Let me also add this, Corey, perhaps related. Jamaica Nole. Is the NCAA letting the whole thing burn to the ground right in front of our eyes? They never wanted to pay the players in the first place. They fought paying the players for decades, eventually just lost in court. They knew NIL would be a mess without rules, and they still chose inaction. Was NIL ever meant to work, or was it always designed to fail without guardrails so the NCAA could later point to the wreckage and say, see? This is why we needed control. Everyone involved seriously needs to wake up on this sport, or the sport will be beyond recognition before we even realize it. P.S. I'm almost done with signing day. I have to know, is the David Kelly that recruited Darius Walker the same David Kelly that was on our staff? Final note. It was?
Yes. It is. Yeah.
Amazing.
Because he was, it's the same David Kelly. I knew him because he was a high school coach for Dunwoody in Georgia when they won a state championship, maybe even a national championship when he was the head coach at Dunwoody. So, yes, that is.
Was Jeff Womble on that Dunwoody team?
No, I don't know. It was a few years before Womble. He might have been a freshman on the team that won it, but he wasn't playing much, I don't think. It was 94, I think, when the Dunwoody team won it.
Oh, yeah. And then final note from Jamaica Nole. He's going to go see Brooks Koepka and Luke Clanton in the Farmers Open this weekend. Go Noles.
All right, nice. Brooks is back.
He is, man.
Brooks is back. And Patrick Reed announced he's coming back, too.
Oh, thank goodness.
To the PGA Tour. And a little Corey history. It's Florida State history, too. I've probably talked about this on the show. I know I have. But in 2010, Florida State's golf team made it to the semifinals of the national tournament where they do the match play. Mm-hmm. And they were playing Augusta State in the 1-versus-1 matchup that day in Chattanooga, I think. It was hot as Hades. I do remember that. I sweated through my belt. My belt was dripping, literally dripping, just drips of sweat off my belt. That's how gross I am, and that's how gross that day was. It was Koepka versus Patrick Reed.
Nice.
Was the 1-versus-1 matchup in that semifinal, and I was 8 feet from them. Like watching them through 4 or 5. Now, obviously, I had no idea who Patrick Reed was, and I barely knew who Brooks Koepka was at the time. But, yeah, that's kind of cool looking back that I was there to watch that matchup. And I think it didn't matter. Augusta State wrapped it up even before Patrick Reed won, or Patrick Reed's that match was over. But I think they were all square going to the 17th or 18th hole. So good matchup, but it didn't matter. So cool. Have fun. Remind Brooks about the matchup with Patrick Reed in Chattanooga.
Corey, I was thinking about this actually earlier in the day. And
Was there a question?
yeah, how can one person fix this at the NCAA? Is this like self-sabotage? Like the NCAA is happy. And I was thinking about this, that, there's all these other things that are going on in our country that people are like, you need to contact your senators and demand change and accountability or whatever. And I wonder how much of this, listen, I agree, like one person's not going to fix this. We can have Nick Saban do it or whoever. They're not going to be able to fix all of it. They either need to collectively bargain, which I don't want to happen, or they need federal regulation. They need a federal law. They need an antitrust exemption. I just wonder if, like, when you got Tommy Tuberville and whatever, I think Kelly, what's the guy? Rick Scott. I don't want to say Kelly. Rick Scott. Like, these are your senators in Florida, like one of the two senators you have in Florida and Alabama. And I know Scott's been up there for a while in D.C., but I don't know how much juice he has. It's like, if this was college basketball having these problems, like it was so bad, I don't know if North Carolina or like the senator in New York would be like, St. John's is screwed. I need my constituents. Like, I feel like the people who have all the juice in our Congress are all from states that really don't live and die with college football. So when their approach and like, you need to fix college athletics, I don't think they care as much. So I don't know. We either need to put people, vote our senators out in Florida and Alabama and states that are desperate with football success and put in really charismatic people that can get equity built up quickly at Congress, or just dwindle and flail in the wind, Corey. But yeah, federal regulation is what I'm rooting for. That's the only way that it's going to get fixed.
I don't think it's I'm 100% against that. I would not. How would that ever work? I mean, that I just don't see that. That's going to be a bipartisan topic. I just don't think that would ever. I don't think Congress can help. And I don't think Congress should help. I don't think it's a Congress problem. I think it's a NCAA.
It's a nationwide problem, though, man. This affects everything, man. This affects high school kids,
right? But it's not
too.
When you think about, right? But is it a real issue? Like, is it a real important issue?
Right.
When you think about the country.
Correct. You're right. Carry on.
And things going on in this country, it's not at the forefront. So that was my point. It's like that they got much bigger things and always will than college sports. But yes, obviously, just saying, "Hey, Jimbo's going to be the czar," won't fix anything if there are no regulations in place. And I don't. But once you get
enforcement, there are regulations. There's no enforcement, though. That's the problem, right, Carly? We need to start changing, I think, the way we talk about this. It's enforcement. There are regulations. Like, yeah, you cannot make anything over $600 gets thrown to NIL Go, and they've got to look it over. It's like, all right, well then, what if you approved it and it's nonsense? Like some $5,000 deal slipped through. Are you going to enforce it? Are you going to enforce it? Doesn't sound like they're going to enforce anything.
Yeah.
Duke wouldn't even enforce their contract.
How many people work for that?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, right. So that's why I think it'll end up being like, I don't know how it's going to be collectively bargained, but it will be collectively bargained where this is the amount of money. You have a salary cap will be the only way this thing gets fixed. I truly think Major League Baseball is about to have a salary cap, and they're the last professional sport standing without one. And I think what the Dodgers have done by getting who'd they just sign? Was it Kyle Tucker? Didn't they just go get some other future Hall of Famer, I think?
Yes,
so
correct.
Once the Dodgers did that, I think that's like the final straw into, well, we can't keep doing this forever. The Dodgers are going to have literally like a $500 million payroll. Other teams in their league have a $35 million payroll. This is ridiculous. This is nuts that the Pirates and the Dodgers are in the same professional sports league. Or the Marlins and the Dodgers are in the same professional sports league is outrageous. It just doesn't make any sense. And so I do think that will be the argument. And I do think all the owners, not named the Dodgers, will probably stand really firm with this one and won't back down. And so there might be a long work stoppage in baseball, which will suck because it's billionaires versus millionaires. We get it. But still, I think it's something that's probably needed at this point just for the equity of the sport because of what the Dodgers are doing. I do think there will be similar sentiment to college football. You have to have a salary cap.
All right. I don't know how soft of a landing that was. The hamster on the wheel powering my internet, or maybe Corey's internet, was having a bit of an issue there. So we wrap it up here. We do have two final questions. We'll get to those tomorrow or maybe for Friday. we'll crank out one more show for you folks. We recorded this before basketball happened, so this will actually be more apropos. One of the questions that we have is from our guy Armchair Osceola. He wanted to talk about hoops. So let's talk about it after we see how Luke and the boys do against who are they playing on Wednesday, Core? Who do they play?
Cal.
That's right. All right. We'll follow up with each other then, everybody. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock, warchant.com, around the clock. Thank you for listening. Hit the thumbs up. It's been Wake Up Warchant, presented by Cummins, CumminsLifestyle. Follow them on Instagram.